r/AskReddit. Women/girls of Reddit. What are the cutest/ most wholesome first date options that we guys don't think about? After having some extremely terrible first dates, I told the guy I was talking to that I wasn't really comfortable going on a date. One night he asks if I'd like to run a couple of errands with him. He took me to a store where he bought a bunch of candy, and after leaving the store he pointed to this really old and small theater and asks if I would like to check it out. After the movie, he asks me if I was as hungry as he was and proceeded to treat me to a great dinner. The MF tricked me into a perfect date night. This guy quickly became obsessive, but I did hugely appreciate his first date idea. I really like to draw, paint, etc., so he decided to take me out by a dam where there were picnic tables. Love to hike to BTW, and we followed a Bob Ross painting tutorial together. He bought all the stuff for that and bought me a flower and a coffee. It was really nice that someone paid attention to the stuff I liked and based that around our first date. What a great first date. How did it go downhill, if you don't mind me asking? He was good at the computer, bragged about hacking people's Facebooks and such. Us having dates and hanging out did not last even a whole week. He asked me to go get him a drink and I walked in on him trying to get in my phone. This next part, I might have just been super paranoid about the previous facts, but I was looking up dent repair kits on Amazon right before I had started talking to him, and I had brought up the scratch on my car while hanging out with him, and he word for word said, "Why don't you get a dent repair kit or something?" He also said something else that I swear I had searched or said to someone over text, but I can't remember. Coincidence, IDK, but I was really paranoid he was watching my stuff, lol. One of my cutest first dates was with a guy who took me out to the country area he and his family lived to go stargazing away from light pollution. We laid down on a big fluffy blanket and he pointed out the various constellations and told me their myths and which were his favorite. He was really into astronomy. My first date with my fiance, he picked me up and we went out to lunch at a local restaurant and talked, and then we stopped by the gas station, bought a bottle of wine and went home, drank, and watched B-flick movies laughing and joking about all the filming/acting mistakes. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I've been on a few really creative dates. One date, we were blindfolded and dueled with paintbrushes, dipped in paint of course. Then it ended in an all-out brawl with paint-filled squirt guns and water balloons. I've been on a group date where we played silent hide and seek/tag in a massive library. Edit. Forgot to add we were all wearing ugly Christmas sweaters for some reason. It wasn't Christmas. We had the hardest time trying to be quiet in the library when we were all dying of laughter. For another date, a guy I knew was super into my roommate. He and his two roommates asked out myself, that girl, and one of our other roommates. We all dressed up like the characters from the board game Clue, and the guys set their house up like the game board, complete with a mannequin victim. We all ran through the house playing live action Clue, wielding a rope and a pipe and a banana with revolver written on it in Sharpie. That guy and girl are now married with 2 kids. One of my early dates with my boyfriend, we went to Goodwill and had 5 minutes each to pick out the ugliest outfit we could find for the other person. Then we put on our outfits and went to see the movie with the lowest score on Rotten Tomatoes, which at the time was 50 Shades of Grey. Dates are fun. Go to the park and make soap bubbles or paper airplanes. Play a sport like badminton, tea and watercolor painting. Trampoline park. Bookstore. I had a pretty good first date once in a quiet bookstore. We ended up sitting in a small upstairs room looking at pictures of WW2 tanks while he nerded out about them. If you have dogs, go to a dog park with them. I chose my own, but I took him skydiving. The tense lead up let us nervously laugh together, and then afterwards we compared notes. Plus the guys we were strapped to in the plane leaned us together so we could kiss. If that's both of your styles, I'd go for it or something like it. I've always thought that when you're first talking to someone and you tell them small things about yourself, whether they be likes or dislikes, and they keep those in mind, it's smart to do so. That being said, I once went on a date where we volunteered at an animal shelter all day. I had told him I wanted to be a vet tech someday, and it was a passion. It would never just be a backquote job, and I absolutely love animals. Although, after telling him that, I changed the subject and I didn't really think he'd keep it in mind even though he praised me for it. Anyways, I had the time of my life on the date, and then we had lunch at this taco place I raved about. Unfortunately, our relationship didn't last too long, but he was a great guy, and I hope he's doing well. Just go for a long walk and have a conversation. It's my favorite way to get to know someone. It's very low-key and laid back, and you always have the option of impromptu stopping somewhere for food or drinks. And, if you decide you aren't feeling it, at least no one had to spend any money, and you still got to do some exercise. Not a woman, but my first real girlfriend really loved the time I took her to a local apple orchard. Paid like $15 for a large bag. It was like a bushel or a bushel, and had a great time. Rode in a trailer hitched to a tractor to the orchard. We picked apples. I climbed a huge pine tree, went up what was easily 20 to 30 feet at least. Before I decided to get down, we fed ducks and I managed to touch one. Drank warm fresh sea idea under the shade of a Honeycrisp tree. It was great. Well, she wanted to go again, but they closed for the season. I said I'd take her when they open next season. Didn't happen that year, or the next. I got addicted to meth for a stint and she began cheating on me. By the time I got clean she didn't love me anymore despite keeping me around to buy her things for the last year. We didn't even have sex. I just wanted her to be happy. We both messed up. I still regret not making the time to do that again. Maybe my life would be different now. Honestly, for a first date go for something memorable. Something she can look back on and feel giddy. Also easily accessible in the future, so she can go back there in the future with you and say remember our first date was here. Apart from that, make it something she likes. Learn a little from her first, then take her somewhere appropriate. Museums. I love museums. I just enjoy getting lost in the stories and history. For my first date with my boyfriend, he took me to a very well-known nuclear museum near our city that I somehow had never been to. It was beyond cool to geek out with him. Then we went and walked the length of the river in downtown and talked about our life goals. It was incredible. I felt that deep connection immediately and knew he would be someone very important to me. We've been dating 5 years now, and I'm super glad he chose a nerdy location for our first date. On our first date my now husband asked me to teach him to ice skate because he knew I was a former figure skater. So many dudes love to take the early opportunity to show off, but sometimes we want to show off things we enjoy and are good at too. Sure you noticed her interests. Plus it's nice to see early on if you're the kind of guy who's gonna act like an emasculated chick when you aren't the best at something, or if you're fun and a good sport. Oh, went on a first date with my ex where we got coffee and walked around the bookstore, then crossed the road and wandered around Target. It was great for getting to know you stuff because we could point out the things that interested us and we were able to just make conversation without being more or less forced to stare at each other across the table, which was great for me since my social anxiety makes eye contact very difficult with people I don't know. Honestly, it's different if you know the person before you date them, but if it's online dating, don't do anything crazy. You can often tell by the end of the first few minutes if you want a second date or not, usually mutually, and it's nice to be able to bug out after a drink instead of on a complicated beach and board game excursion. As an example of one such date I had. Second dates, on the other hand, are where it's at. I really like geocaching with my now so he knew I was into it already and suggested it, and Lego dates can be fun too, but perhaps a bit pricey depending what set you build together.